No, we don't have weekends. We work 21/7, mate.
Oh, jeez. 21/7. Yeah, that's right. You're 3 hours of sleep of,
Yeah.
and you're so. I'm not gonna say. No, you are that active that you forget to sleep.
Sometimes
I don't
I
know
do.
how you. I don't know how that's
I
superhuman.
don't
That sort
want
of
to.
functioning.
I don't want to. I don't want to sleep. I'm too excited about what's going on. There's too much to finish, and you just sort of get into a hole, and you're writing documents or a white paper or a light paper, and then you come out and you go, "Hang on, my lunch is there," and they say, "That's your lunch from yesterday," and I say, "Oh, Jesus." Often.
You forget to eat. You forget to sleep. It's like there's too many
Yeah.
amazing things going on.
Yeah.
Now, in to really get onto the black paper, because that's really what will nut out.
Yep.
Because I'm someone who isn't as well versed in like white papers and those documentations. Some of the questions may come across as really common sense. I guess
Yeah.
because I'm not
Sure.
that common to it.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
guess the first part is in the disclaimers. The past performances of RedFOX Labs, should not be relied on. That's written in there. Um,
Yeah.
I look at the past of RedFOX and I think, wow, 18 months of grinding and building the rep. To me, that says if the past indication is normally a
Mm.
good indicator for the future. And putting that
Mm.
paragraph in there, does that what does that tell the reader?
Well, I think that, to be honest, when it comes to disclaimers and all the rest of it, you don't put that in. It's the lawyers that put that in. They basically cut and paste those paragraphs in, and you just nod and acknowledge and agree. I think that for more than anything, well, let's strip it back one step. If you say that you're new to white papers and documents and all the rest of it, there's a difference between sort of being a shareholder or a stockholder and having a speculative holding of tokens, which should be utility based. So ultimately, there's a lot of, lawyers will always put in some sort of, force
Yeah.
majeures or COVID happens and someone's got a business that's face to face. I mean, you don't
Yes.
know what forces of nature are going to. But I mean, ultimately, like I've said a million times, we eat, sleep, and breathe this business, and I will not accept. I've got a very clear goal that not many people know, so I'll share it with you. But my objective is to have a coffee shop on the beach. And to never have to sell a coffee to keep the coffee shop open. And people say to me, "Why do you have to work so hard, and why do you have to be a CEO, and why do you have to launch multiple companies to do that?" And I say, because to buy your freedom is expensive, and if I have to sell a coffee to keep the doors open, then it's not a love anymore. It's a job.
Yes.
So I've got a very clear goal. I've had that since I was 15 years old, and I am this is my last role ever. So
I think
this
I
is
can sum that up really easily by saying you want to uh, live to work, not work to live. As in, you
yes,
want
because
to
at the
be able.
moment
Yep. You want to be able
it's the
to.
other way around.
Um,
I'm saying at the moment it's the other way around, and a lot of people
yeah.
keep saying, "We've known you for 20 years. There's no way you're going to be able to just live on a beach and drink coffee." But you know what? At the end of the day, I'll probably end up opening a franchise of these coffee shops and turning it into some sort of little empire. But the fact is that I
No
want to I
starving.
want to think that I can switch off.
Yeah. So pretty much the dream will be a not it'll be Red Fox Bucks essentially. No, that's the terrible joke.
No, it'll
No.
be it'll be it'll be to get this to a unicorn status and to get this really rocking and rolling, and no time wasted, no gas left in the tank. I'm talking about build this and make it something that. My ultimate objective from RedFOX is I want my kids and the people that work here's kids to say, "Look at what my parents built. Look what they did. They
Yeah.
left a mark, and it was a good one."
Yeah. Legacy. No,
Yeah.
that's something I actually aspire to. eventually accomplish. In turn,
Congratulations.
so I think as well that would probably bleed into the next question of why. Sorry, has the black paper itself got an expiry? And
Mm.
how will we be notified when that does happen?
Yeah, I think we go through chapters, and being a venture builder, you have to be liquid, agile, you have to pivot. So we're building numbers of businesses. Those businesses are based on a lot of things. They're the fastest growing sectors in the internet economy here in Southeast Asia. So those don't necessarily remain fixed. It could be that in 2 years from now, some sort of social good um, uh, chain of businesses or focuses becomes the next big thing. So we need to be agile enough to be able to point and click and direct at those avenues as well. So ultimately, we'll release a new black paper each time the company takes some sort of a fundamental shift or pivot or
Mm.
some sort of a fundamental change. But I think the expiration date is based on when the fundamentals change. But ultimately, our end goal, we always start with the end in mind and work our way back. So the end goal is never going to change. It's just how we
Yes.
get there that changes.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and that I guess goes into the guarantees because you said that um, with the ever changing landscape of venture building, so you can't have those guarantees because it's just going to be the promises essentially are going to be changing with the environment of the
Yeah.
yeah
Well, you think about it. If you built an airline and it was the best airline in the world or the best cinema chain in the world, and everyone was investing in it, and then COVID hits, and you can't go within 2 feet of it or 2 meters of each other,
yeah
those businesses have had something that is out of their control. But we're very lucky because we build digital businesses that focus on inclusion,
that's it
and if anything, it's actually sped up because we were always looking at education, at the virtual space, gaming, and all of these digital environments. And the thing is that all focus has moved to that. I mean, e-commerce streaming is one of our next projects, and this has become huge now because people are not going to the shops anymore, and they're looking for online versions. And the way that we've built an interactive type of model,
mm,
people said to us, "You're 2 years ahead of the curve. This is not ready for your market yet." And now people are saying, how do we get involved in it or invest? Because we're behind the eight ball. It will take us at least a year to build what you've finished building over the last year. So we try and use a lot of data to stay ahead of the curve.
yeah well and it's the e-streaming as well. I mean, I'll saw the screenshots that were in the black paper. Is that something that's kind of the sneak peek of what the app the
Yeah,
apps
well, the app's done. The app's ready to go. The thing is that we will release that as soon as we have RFOX Games stable. The game comes out in December, and the thing is that what we don't want to be doing is uh, pointing too many guns in too many different directions. We've got to show how well our model works,
yes
show how we can deploy and roll these businesses out to a stable perspective. Now, other people have said, why don't you just bring it out? If it's ready, you should just do it because who knows what's going to happen with these market conditions, COVID and all the rest of it. And the thing is that our reputation and our brand for what we want to do is far too important to us to risk it before we've really got going by bringing out three things at once that we can't focus on and topple. So ultimately, we will look at getting this game out, making sure that edition 2 is really, really good. And then we bring on people that are far more experienced than us to take this much, much further than we could and grow it exponentially. So it's exciting. We roll out the MVP and then we try and see if there's a product market fit, which we have done and validated. And
mm,
then we go into full throttle build out. And if, like, to be honest, the reason I smile about it and laugh about it, and it makes me giddy like a little kid, is that when we sat down, you draw things on the back of a napkin, so to speak.
yeah
You've got your idea, you've got your vision, and you think, we can do this. And as a group, it clicks together and you say, all right, we're committed, we can do this, we know how to make it happen, we'll get the right people. Then when you see the product market fit sort of come into play and you see hey, people like it, it's working, they like this, Then you go back and visit what the game was going to look like. Then you have a look at, now that we've got product market fit, what's it look like now? I can't sleep. I look at it and I say, that's 50 times better than what we thought it was going to be in the beginning. Now, I don't want to make things to be better than they are. It's a very simplistic game, but we just have the right people, and having someone like Art Beggar on the gaming side just shows you the quality of people that we're bringing in for these individual projects. And it makes us excited, and the more traction we get, the better the product we bring out for the next version. And it's just like, this is quality we can stand behind. I mean, Cogs is it's very good quality.
It is, no, because it's you get a game which is easy to pick up, and it has its own complexities behind it, which the player themselves will discover. So that's actually the secret to a really, really, even though it's not a AAA game, it's one of the top. That's how the top games are the top games. It's so simple yet so complex because the player makes it that way. And
well, we also are big fans of Easter eggs. We've already done one Easter egg challenge, and people sort of thought, okay, it'll be a find something in a picture and tell us it's an apple or something like that. But it was a proper Easter egg hunt, and people had sort of come back and said, you know, that was really well put together and thought out, and it was much more complicated and harder than I thought it was going to be. But the thing is, we design products for longevity. We don't provide them to be a picture of someone with smoke and then 2 minutes later you're bored. We want these things to keep on giving and keep on generating interest. So it took 18 months to design that first set. It wasn't something we just sat down and said, let's just draw something and put it on the internet. It's nothing like that.
And that's where it is, that extra layer of complexity that will bring players back over and over again. Just going on to the e-streaming app, because on page 5 of the Blackpaper, you reference to take RedFOX Labs to become a super DApp. Now, can you tell me what that is?
Yep. Yeah, that's a very good question. So what we mean by that is, if you look at WeChat, for example, WeChat has WeCash, and you can buy stuff through there. It's got e-commerce and all the rest of it. So it's replaced a large part of China's paper economy through a digital money system. So what it basically means is that you can do more than one thing there. So, for example, we've got an English Education on Demand app, which will be built shortly as well. So what happens is, for example, let's just say we've got the e-streaming cashback and rewards, we've got a game, and we've got English Education on Demand, for example.
Yep.
So what this means is that that solves a lot of problems in Southeast Asia, because teachers have to move here from London. They don't want to live in third world cities. They don't want to live in cities that don't have cinemas and malls. They don't want to move to a backwater place when they're fresh out of college. So having a button you can press on your phone, which every kid has, and I can beam to a teacher in America or the UK on demand, this is far more convenient. Now, imagine if I'm doing that and I'm paying for that service, and I can incorporate the cashback and rewards into that. And then I can then use that cashback and reward that I got from the English Education to go across to Cogs and buy Cogs in games or whatever. So that's where the Super DApp sort of comes together. It means that all the businesses that we build will be integratable in some way, shape or form. However, it's important to note that they are still modular, meaning if someone comes along and says, I love your gaming company, I want to buy it, it's worth $1 squillion and I want to take it off your hands, we can clip that apart, not have that gaming company in our ecosystem anymore, but then we're also free to build out another one. So yeah.
I mean, so it's the amount of utility behind it kind of just, the imagination just kind of blew my mind for a moment. That's fantastic.
Well, the thing is, when we started, I'd been in those influencer circles, and quite often the conversation was, don't you get sick and tired of how none of these tokens and coins have any real utility? And most of these companies are never going to get a product off the ground, and if they do, no one's going to use it. No one's going to be interested. It won't do any good. So we sat there for a long, long time and said, how are we going to make sure that this keeps finding extra users and extra value? And how do we make sure that that the utility isn't just narrow and its focus that it can be used across a number of different things. So instead of waiting for people to integrate us as a form of payment, we said, screw it, we will be the platform.
And that actually goes on to page 6 in terms of payments and stuff, because 75% of the adult population in Southeast Asia are either underbanked or unbanked
Yeah.
completely. So does RedFOX Labs have plans to be, say, a decentralized bank, or providing that sort of, or even if that technology is possible, with the
Yeah.
RFOX token?
Let me put it this way. Anybody who thinks they can build a completely decentralized financial system, product or market, good luck to you. Good luck to you. You obviously don't know government. Governments and people are going to want some sort of regulation they'll say it's to protect investors and users, but ultimately it's, I want to be able to control and get my piece of the pie.
Yep.
So when you say decentralized, what we want to do 100% is focus on inclusion, meaning that these people don't necessarily need bank accounts. Now, what that could look like, and it's just a suggestion, they could go into a 7-Eleven and give cash over the counter and get a QR code, and then they can use that QR code to purchase things that they would have purchased with a credit card.
Yeah.
That's about as complicated as we can forecast at this particular point in time, because if we try and compete against the local currencies or compete, like in Vietnam, for example, it is illegal to use a cryptocurrency to replace the local currency.
Yes.
I'm allowed to buy it, I'm allowed to trade it, I'm allowed to invest in it. I cannot use it to buy something that I currently use Dong for.
I see what you mean. That's exactly how the American system is set up as well, where they don't want anything to replace the dollar. But I guess then, in terms of just allowing, say, someone who doesn't, someone who is unbanked, out in the sticks, they walk into a store and they hand over Dong to the merchant, and then the merchant says, scan this QR code. They're on the RFOX developed app, and they make their purchases through the app, essentially, from what I can.
Yeah. So basically, they've paid Dong to purchase credits, or think of it like a gift card. That gift card. So there's ways that it can be done, and what we're looking for is we're actually. I was asked to join both the Philippines and Vietnam, like a board for legislation for blockchain and all the rest of it. The thing is that anyone who's wanting to really fight against the regulation process and all the rest of it, I understand it completely, and I love disruptive technology and all the rest of it, but ultimately our goal is a little bit different than some of the others. Our goal is for inclusion of people that are missing out and are underserved. And the thing is that it should be borderless in its approach and nature. So ultimately, I'd be happy to work with any government body that is trying to implement this, and it gives us a better chance of implementing more and more products and services. Yeah. I'm going to work with these people for sure.
And essentially give those governments and their citizens more, make them more inclusive in their society, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Going on to, so I was reading through page 7, and I wanted to find out who Lazada, Shopee, and Zilicon is, because RedFOX Labs wants to maybe compete against what's called in the paper those local giants. How would you expect to either compete, or even, who knows, maybe work with them? Who knows?
Yeah, no. So we've already got an affiliate link to Lazada.
Yes.
So what that basically means is that anybody that Lazada's like, for those who don't know, it's like the Amazon of this region. What it basically allows,
or Alibaba of China.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone who buys through the platform would receive a cashback. So how it works is we get cashback and give the people the points, and they can redeem that not only at Lazada, they can redeem it at anywhere else that we've integrated with. So how we compete is very interesting, actually. We don't try and think that we can be one of these massive e-commerce giants, because technically speaking, you need billions of dollars of burn money to be able to sort of compete with those companies, and it's very, very difficult to make money, especially if you're holding items or goods. So what we do is provide a platform for the retailers to sell to the audiences. But this opens up what I call the grey market, and I mean, there's a lot of Facebook businesses and these people that have their own stores, right?
Yeah.
So during COVID, a lot of those people might have had physical stores and they've got a lot of inventory, they've lost their building and all the rest of it. Some of these are very, very successful businesses. They do huge volumes. So this gives everybody an opportunity to be able to present what they're selling. It gives the audience a chance to interact by saying, hey, I love your t-shirt. Does it come in any other color than blue? And so you can literally say, yeah, it comes in red, green, these sizes. And then what happens is you can click on the screen and you can actually purchase the items that you're looking at. And in Asia, they get delivered to you in a couple of hours. So it is very, very much combining things like your real interactive experience with like the home shopping channel. It's massive in China. It's already a $63 billion industry a year in China, and it's just starting to bleed into Vietnam and these countries that we're surrounded by. So we'll be one of the first movers in this space. So it's a really good way to be able to sort of interact with people. We don't try and say that we're going to be the next Lazada or even compete with them, but we will definitely compete for
some market share.
And a platform for people, give people an audience.
Yeah, and that helps with marketing, not only for RedFOX Labs, but I would imagine for the companies you're working with, and that provides them incentive to utilize the RFOX token and everything. Just it's a win-win for everyone, essentially.
And to go back to your previous point, that's where the super DApp sort of stuff gets born, because we've then got a massive platform that everybody's using, and we can go in and say, hey, have you heard of COGS? We can present COGS, and you've got a massive audience. So we're not waiting for people we're not filling out applications and waiting for these people to partner with us and list with us. We're building this stuff ourselves and saying, let's just do it. Let's do it ourselves.
And people will jump on board when they see that it's part of the whole super DApp. And saying part of that grey market as well, that sounds like you're getting rid of the bricks and mortar. So I guess that comes back to, that even goes into the e-travels, the online travel space too. That means, I don't know, I'm guessing those local companies, that kind of a Airbnb setup where they have, well, I guess so. How does capitalizing on the online travel space?
Okay, so e-travel has been a massively fast-growing sector. A lot of these, let's just take Vietnam for example. A lot of people, as the middle-class structure sort of really develops and people have got more disposable income, a lot of the Vietnamese people have been traveling internally, like within Vietnam, and they're looking for great luxury beaches and getaways within their own country. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the majority of that market is serviced by foreign players or companies outside of, like your Expedias and your Amazons and all the rest of it. So these people are looking for a good luxury service that allows them to be able to travel internally, externally. This is just one example. Now, what we can then do is plug that into our cashback and reward system. We can plug that into the other businesses that we've got and we utilise, so that we can make that part of the larger network. But we went over to Myanmar and started negotiations with one of the biggest travel companies there, and then COVID happened. But ultimately, the big part that was appealing to them was they own about 80% of corporate space for corporate travel, and they are not allowed to. A lot of these companies are not allowed to give cashback or rewards or anything like that. Whereas if an independent party comes along and says, we can do that for you, then these big businesses that spend a lot of money can actually come back and can give something back to their customers, and it gives them a chance to retain those services. But e-travel is something that is exploding in this region. more and more people with more and more disposable income are curious to get around and see what's out there.
Capturing that market share is always up. Well, it's essentially the goal.
Exactly.
Now it makes sense as well. That's right. So I'm going on to e-travel and to ride hailing, because I know it makes sense why you won't focus on that space, because of the monopolies that are there. Because it takes an extreme amount of finance to get through there, and you want and too much risk behind it. I guess what I'm getting at is the problem with delivery and logistics, though. Uh, where you say the problem, is there waiting to be solved. In the majority of Southeast Asian countries. Uh,
Yeah.
can you elaborate on how RFOX Labs will solve it?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, ride hailing is, I've come from Grab, which is the equivalent to Uber in Southeast Asia, and it's a $14 billion company. And what I've seen and learned from that is that the amount of money you have to use to subsidize both the driver side and the passenger side means that it ends up costing you every time a person gets into one of your vehicles. So it's not a sustainable model. Uber's already said they've never be profitable, and you need so once you get to about 76% market share, you're in a cost neutral sort of a situation. Once you get to like 92 or 93%, you're in rare air, and you'd be like DD in China and making money. But to have that type of a luxury is very, very difficult to achieve. So scratch that off. If you look at the logistics side of things, like for example, I'll give you a great example. So insects as food. Europe and Asia are the two major hubs and spots for that. Now, Asia will always play second fiddle to Europe, because Europe will say we've got better quality standards, we've got better protein levels, and we've got less infected or less bad quality insects for food, for example. So Asia, they will say we've got more loose tracking measures. So you don't know where they were produced, you don't know what they were fed, you don't know. They've never been. They might not be being tested at the same level. So what you can actually do is provide an opportunity for people to know from farm to fork.
Yes.
Come from, under what conditions it was produced, how old it is, how much it was bought for, whether it was free from slave labor, whether it was, and you can index all of that type of stuff on a blockchain to the point where at the end of when it comes to the point where you're purchasing it from a supermarket, you can scan a code and it gives you all of the product information.
History, yes. And that ethics as well is something that people are really starting to base their buying habits on.
100%, and I think the thing is that everybody wants increased transparency, and for countries in Asia that produce well quality products, it's a chance for them to say our products are as good, they've been tested properly in proper laboratories and clinics, they've passed standards, safety standards, they're cheaper, they're better. So ultimately, that's just it's just one example. You might buy a punnet of strawberries from the supermarket and tell you that it was grown in Coolangatta and it was shipped down to Wangaratta, and then it was a 3-day cycle, and you know how old the strawberries were, what pesticides they were used on them. So it's a great way for tracking, reporting, and making sure that you are passing stringent measures. And this is already something that a lot of Asian countries are looking at. And again, we can plug into a lot of that.
Has anyone approached to start building that sort of?
Lots.
Ooh, nice. That's exciting.
But it is exciting. But the thing is, I think that we're getting to a point where most things that are coming through this region are landing on our desk at some stage. But ultimately, as we've stated, we're a build-out venture builder. So we don't build this product for another company. We build it and start a company of our own. So it's a very different model. We get a lot of people come to us and say, we're having difficulty monetizing what we've got. We've got an awesome product. How about we partner and you guys can do this and that and market it for us or do this for us. And we're saying, no, if we like it and it can make a lot of money, and it's a high growth industry and it can do some good as far as inclusion is concerned, why would we not just do it ourselves?
Yep.
Where we can monitor the quality, make sure that it's not taking on all that baggage, and we just do things ourselves. It's our model.
You've just explained the process of your venture builder, because the black paper does explain that, which is definitely something that is advising part of it, of how to integrate blockchain technology with the company that I would say your customers, no, your affiliates. I'm not sure of the word, but essentially the people that approach you.
Yeah, the way you've got to look at it is that, as we've stated before, our end goal, and we're a long way from that, because technically speaking, we're lucky today that we're able to have this call on clear internet and all the rest of it. But so many times still you have WhatsApp calls or whatever, and they drop out and the connection fails. That's an industry that's been around for decades. People are talking about blockchain, saying, when's the mass adoption coming? I mean, it takes time, but ultimately our end goal is to make sure that people don't have to know they're interacting with blockchain at all.
That's it.
I use this example all the time, but
yeah,
if I go to a department store and I say I'm hot and I need a new fan or an air conditioner, I go in and I say, this is how much money I've got, what can I get? Now, the sales guy will tell me, these are the different models and this is what I recommend, this is cheaper to run. He doesn't give me a sermon and a lecture on how electricity is generated, how it gets from the generation point to my power point, and how this electricity stack or technology is better than the other electricity and I should be using this one. No one cares. Just give me the damn air conditioner, let me go home, and if I save a few bucks or get something thrown in for free in the process, I'm happy. I don't care how it works.
Mm-hmm.
I care that it does work. I just want to press a button. I want my life to be easy.
Yep.
Stop complicating things and making me need a PhD to use anything that you produce. So
that's it.
Our end goal is to remove this from the equation, full stop.
And that's pretty much how I see COGS. Let me download the app and start throwing those slammers down.
Yes.
That's pretty much how and you've hit the nail on the head in terms of what the customer wants.
Exactly. And I mean, the fact is we've worked in customer experience-based industries our entire life, and the thing is that the more complicated the process is, the more complicated the support is, and the more expensive the support is. And the fact is that, even doing something like a token swap like we're doing now, a lot of people say, I don't know how to manage keys, or how do I import a wallet, or, and you think, we're a long way from being at the point of mass adoption. So baby steps, little steps, simplify as we go, just build quality products and get something out that actually works, that people like.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in summarizing the design of and the team structure, where a company. So we said before, when a company approaches and wants to be signed to RFOX and be binded by a contractual agreement, which in effect could be indefinite or a couple of years.
Yep.
Uses the super DApp and tokens, etc. So they're allowed to scale, grow, capture more market share, being part of the RFOX token system where they provide the guidance. I guess in terms of the RFOX token holders, how will they be rewarded? Because so all the transactions, of course, are settled with the token. I guess. Yeah.
So basically, what it means is that you notice that we've reduced our supply greatly before we actually do the increased conversion rate.
Yes.
But the whole point of that was to do two things. One, to make sure that there was enough of the token so that we can bridge to other chains and make sure that there's always a supply wherever you go. The second thing that we looked at it from the perspective of was, if the majority of the supply is already in token holders' hands, this means that if people are going to integrate to the RFOX system as far as payments are concerned or utilising the token, then you're going to have to buy those to utilise the services from the people that are holding them. not from some big pot that's been kept aside at the side that we could potentially sell to these people or give to these people that would then dump these into the market. Look at what happened with Ethereum. Everybody that raised during the ICO period needed to liquidate it, so they had cash. So the thing is, we sort of turned around and said, we need to change the way it's currently structured and set up, and we need to make it that if people want to use this token, they have to buy it from the people that are holding it. So we changed the structure and the flow, and that was something that was very important to us. So ultimately,
who are those buyers of the tokens?
So for
I hold them, and I'm one of those holders. So am I being told now I've got to sell my... Okay,
no.
confused myself.
For example, there's always going to be people that want to sell and make profit or cash out or whatever. So for example, let's just say that we've got the game on Wax launches and people say, I want to buy Edition 2 cogs. And let's just say, for example, we said the only way to do that, I'll keep it really simplistic, is to use RFOX, right? Forget what version or what it is.
Not Wax
so
anymore?
they say, where do I get RFOX from? How do I get RFOX? So you'd say you have to go to the market and buy it. So people then go, okay, I'll go in and I'll try and buy the RFOX so I can buy these cogs. And then what happens is there's a constant demand for the actual tokens because people are going to continually want to be playing game, buying cogs and all the rest of it. So that means that those people that are wanting to sell have increased confidence that there is demand and liquidity for the token because it's being used in more and more apps and games and businesses. So therefore, there's no sort of like XRP or there's no sort of we'll give if you want to build on our network or you want to integrate our token, we're going to give you a zillion tokens that you can dump on everybody. So that you'll integrate into our network. Ours is going to be much more aspirational, and if you want to use it, you're going to buy it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that's the way it's going to be structured and set up.
And that's understandable because you want to still have that utilization of the RFOX token, which means that I'm guessing there won't be using Wax anymore to buy cogs. Is that right?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So how it would work, and I'll answer in general in blanket terms. So some of these chains have the ability to wrap the tokens, which means, you know, I gather most people would know what that means. But effectively, I think most people have dealt with wrapped ETH or wrapped Bitcoin. So effectively, it would allow us to be able to move across from the ERC-based token and wrap it as a Wax token. Sometimes you can also bridge across, and you can actually. So, for example, on some chains, we might actually bring out a version that's converted from RFOX, which takes that supply out of our main ERC supply,
yep. And
it's then utilised across on that particular chain. So different bridges have different mechanics behind them, but the idea is to make sure that think of it as like a US dollar. We try and make sure that the US dollar is accepted everywhere, and that those are like foreign currency or exchange booths. People are still converting back into and working out how much they've spent in US dollars. We try and make it so that RFOX is utilised everywhere we go.
So going on to page 23 of the black paper, that has the X RFOX, the A RFOX. Those are the different versions, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so for those who are familiar with the ERC side of things, there's different, depending on who you use and what liquidity pools you're involved with. You've got XDAI, you've got, you can have different versions of Bitcoin, OUSD, so there's different types of versions. Now, for example, we might decide to use Rootstock have a stablecoin, and we've made it very clear that stablecoins will be of use in some of the companies and businesses that we build out. So there would be a version of a USD or a stablecoin that would effectively be powered by Rootstock through RFOX. So there's a lot of different options for the different versions of tokens, depending on which pools and which chains we integrate and work with. So this is just giving you an idea and an outline of the different types of currencies that you could mine, earn through staking liquidity pools. We've tried to keep it really simple on the ERC side. We've basically just said, here's RFOX. It can bridge, it can wrap, it can go across, because it's up to the users and the holders to determine which pool they're going to contribute to and what is going to provide them with the best returns. Not us. It's up to them. It's up to them to choose what they do.
And that's how the market has always been determining the value of cogs as well. So it's the perfect example for it. Perfect example.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to ask one more question, because I've been well, from myself, because I've been neglecting the community's questions. In terms of a Unifox, sorry, not Unifox, a unicorn business model, and the design, build, operate, transfer model, the depot model. Is that the same? Is that what a unicorn business is, or is that a modified version of it? Or
no. So a unicorn business is essentially any business that's not a publicly traded or public company that is valued at more than $1 billion. So, for example, Grab is a unicorn.
Yes.
Uber technically isn't, because Uber is a stock-listed company. So under its technical term, people would still call Uber a unicorn, but the traditional or proper method or explanation of a unicorn is a company worth more than $1 billion that is not publicly traded. So we'll just talk about it in generic terms for the purpose of this exercise, and say we model after companies that are worth more than $1 billion, which means they have to have had some sort of traction and success, and something they're doing must be working. So what we then do is we come up with a concept, we look to improve what's already in existence. We have a 9-point funnel system, so we go through and say, are we third to fifth to market? Now people say, why don't you go first or second? I don't want to have to deal with the regulatory issues and costs setting up something for the first time. We look for third to fifth to market. So we say we're not saturated. It's not a saturated market. Some people might say, well, hang on, an industry that you're going into like gaming, it's got billions. So again, one of our parameters is third to fifth to market, or 2 players dominate the space in a particular country, and you can prove that you can be an attacker brand and steal market share from them. We have to be able to provide a very solid plan for bringing up $25 million per annum worth of revenue by the 4th year. And then that gives us the opportunity to be able to say, all right, we're at a point where we can either exit or we can actually put further injections of cash into this and really, really dominate or take ourselves outside of these borders of Southeast Asia. So the deep bot model means that we come up with the idea, we design it, we then build it. And let's use COGS, for example. We designed it, spent 18 months on the concept, completed the artistic set. We then went across and said, all right, let's get it to the point where we're operating that. So we release it, see if there's product market fit. And if there is, what we can then do is turn around and say, okay, let's accelerate, build the game, make it better than we thought it was going to be. And then what we do is we look at saying, now, who's much better experienced in gaming than we are, that has the local knowledge and the industry knowledge to take this to being one of those unicorn companies, whereas someone like me, doesn't matter how well I lead a company or how well I surround myself with certain people, it's going to be difficult for me to be experienced and have the leadership or the experience needed for particular industry types that I'm not familiar or versed with. So we look for people that are better equipped to help grow those businesses faster. We retain board seats, and we obviously remain the major stakeholders in those companies. And what we do is we then transfer the reins over to people that can grow it faster.
Yeah, so
which is better for RFOX users.
And essentially, you're the, I don't know if I could use this analogy, the jack of all trades, and then you give it to the specialist, essentially.
Yeah, so we stick to the 4 sectors that we know and are the fastest 4 growing sectors, and we know how to get to a certain level regardless of what it is. But then once it sort of shows that traction, and we know how to measure, we're very good with data and also customer experience as far as like measuring where people are falling off, why, what the return on investment is, what we should stop spending money on, what we should spend more on. But ultimately, there comes a time when you need people that can come in and say, okay, this is what you need to compete, this is what, and they can bring the industry connections and the funding and all that type of stuff in as well. Our role is to say, we focused on our sector, we came up with a great idea, we made it a little bit better, faster, cheaper, or stronger. And then what we did once we proved that had traction is we acknowledged the fact that we are not necessarily the best person in the world to take this to the next level. So let's find who that person is and bring them on.
Mm. And that makes a lot more sense. Good. It's a good explanation for it. Now,
well, one of the first things I learned from someone I admire very much was they said the best entrepreneurs know when they've exercised their full ability, and they know when the right time for them to hand over the reins to someone who can really get more mileage out of it. The worst entrepreneurs, and there's very few exceptions, stay too long or hold on too long and say they get to a point and they stall and they don't know where to do it. But the Jeff Bezoses and the Elon Musks and all the rest of it, they're a very rare breed of people.
And I think that comes down to having that what's the word? That open-minded approach of learning all those new aspects. So your Elon Musks and your Jeff Bezos, they're the ones that maybe, I mean, I don't know if they're control freaks, but you know, like I'm just saying that in the end though, they learn to make sure they can expand the business to have more specialized adoption.
I think it's about all about who you surround yourself with and the people that you bring on. You should always, people talk about Henry Ford, the car guy.
Yes. I know the story.
I've read so many books about him and about that era, and a lot of people said he wasn't that switched on, but he'd been caught, or he'd been under interrogation, or he'd be questioned about something, and then someone would ask him a question about finance, and he'd press a button, and the CFO would come in, and he'd say, "Can you answer this question?" And many people have said, "Hey, why do you get everybody else to?" He goes, "These people are much smarter than me in their field, so I just hire the best person in every field, and that makes us successful." So it's knowing your limitations, and
absolutely.
Branson says it better than anybody. He says, you can never. You can never, as a business, not spend time concentrating on what you're good at as well. Most businesses only say, what's going wrong and how do I fix it? The issue is that if you are successful for whatever reason, and then you lose that success for a period of time or because of a product launch, and you weren't sure or you don't understand why you were successful, you can't get back there. Yeah. So you've got to focus on both of those things. Now, to do what those guys have done, you need to be acutely also aware of what your weaknesses are, and you need to make sure that you plug those holes and you get people around you. I make sure that if I'm terrible at paperwork, which I am, I get good paperwork people, and I get
get those people who are more specialised in those areas. So
exactly.
Now I've neglected the community's question, so I'll better ask their one. So Ramjit, he's asking that he saw something in the COGS, the Telegram or COG community group, that COGS potentially could be listed on centralized exchanges. Is that something to consider?
That is not a consideration. That will happen.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, and he also asks, he assumes that in relation to Series 2, the second edition of COGS, this will be in packs of, or will they be individual COGS as they're released?
It hasn't actually been decided. We've talked more about how the integration would work, how the piece would work. what it would look like. The one thing that we notice with a lot of the NFTs is that there's a sell side, there's no buy side, so it doesn't work like a normal exchange. Like if I, for example, a Satoshi foil, they've been going for, COGS have been going for around about $2,000, but I have to go on the market and find whatever the lowest price one is, for example. Why can't I go in and put in a bid and say I want to buy one for 1,500, and will someone sell it to me, just like when you're purchasing a fungible token? So, so the thing is that I guess this is a move that some of the exchange, I think the progressive ones are probably already looking at it, but they just don't know how to do it. So yeah, so we're working on helping to make that a reality now.
So that will potentially be on NFT exchanges and markets. Fantastic.
No, it'll be on a non-NFT exchange market, as in a normal exchange that you would see normal coins on.
Thank you for correcting me.
That's right.
Now, PJ from the community says, can or do you design and also operate or transfer a venture in parallel to others? As in, are you limited to one venture per 100 days or 200 days,
Yeah.
etc.?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So the idea in the beginning, if it was the case that we weren't limited, we would bring out the cashback and streaming out straight away. However, our idea is to make sure that we get the model right, prove that it works, document it all, make sure that the process and the format is like a well-oiled machine. And then what we do at headquarters for RedFOX is we'll have like an A team. And that A team will effectively roll out these new companies. Now, I've worked in lots of rapid high-scaling companies, and how it works is that you would have people shadowing you, that you would be training, and you take that A team and you divide it into two with some of your B people that have come in, and that would allow you to produce two at once, and then you're continually repeating that process so that you can grow, and you might be able to do three at once. At the moment, we're at the stage where the team is still forming. We're bringing on new people like crazy, so it's a matter of sharpening the axe and making sure that we've got the format and the model right. Then what we do is once we've got it right and it's a cookie cutter type of formula, we can then start saying, let's do two at once in parallel. And our goal is aggressive. We're not mucking around. We're not here for to play tiddlywinks. We hope to get the parallel model in place as soon as we've proven that the linear model works.
And when you find a model that works, why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You grow on it, you expand it.
That's it. So the COGS game itself was built on Komodo. It'll continue on Komodo, I'm guessing, as well as being broken up onto different chains?
Yeah, so it was developed as a proof of concept and had an amazing dev called Dempsey that were, so one guy basically did an amazing job part-time on the back-end side of things. And that was a really good proof of concept because it showed that you can actually build a game fully on-chain and what the technical capabilities of blockchain is, and especially Komodo's great technology. So that's there. It began testing for the back end and all the rest of it. For the version that we've got on Wax, we've also decided to deploy a entirely based on Wax version. That's where the traffic has been, and the idea of going across to being ERC and being able to bridge and wrap and all the rest of it is that it takes away some of that. It makes it more agnostic, and it makes it so that you can, if someone on RSK says, okay, we want COGS to be able to bridge to RSK, we can do that. If we want games that incorporate COGS built on a different technology set altogether, we can do that. So the thing with us is that we've grown much quicker than we possibly anticipated. If you look back 6 months ago when the world was in doom and gloom and all the rest of it, and still is, unfortunately. But ultimately, we've grown very quickly, and we're a team that needs support and ready tools. And there is no one chain on this planet that can do everything, especially everything that we need. So ultimately, we need a place where we've got lots of support and tools that we can actually plug into. We're business people that can build great businesses. We need a lot of that tech side to be taking care of itself and plugging into what we're building. And as I say, the second layer and in the background and not our primary focus. So
having that interchain operability as well will just make it even more easier for COGS and the RedFOX Labs as a whole.
And we can bridge back to Komodo, and like you say, I mean, we had one person on the back end from the Komodo side, and we had 23 people from the RedFOX side working on the front end, designing all of the art and mechanics and the gameplay and all the rest of it. So this part we know intimately. So as long as tech is ready, doesn't matter where it is, we can literally plug into that very quickly.
I guess because I've taken up nearly an hour of your time, Benny. But one last question.
Sure.
Because now, if I'm so sorry if I've butchered your name. Agila, long time member of the community. He asked me, and I wanted to clarify as well. On page 25 and 21, you have a ratio of every one RFOX token a holder has. They get 10. Or so does that mean, say, if I have 1 trillion RFOX tokens, do I get at the end of the swap, do I get 10 trillion or 11 trillion?
No, you get 10 trillion, so it's 10 for 1. It's
10 times.
Yeah, 10 for 10. Yep, 10 times.
10 times.
So the way
that,
yeah, and this is a question that gets asked a lot as well. So the way it's actually worked is people are saying, I'm trying to do the math and I'm confused and I don't understand. Effectively, the simple numbers to remember are the supply goes from roughly 27% to 67% in circulating supply. But how it works is that the holders that currently have coins will get 10 times the amount in tokens.
Yes.
And
the circulating supply only really increases by 2.5 times.
So how it works is that the circulating supply and total supply. So total supply goes from 500 million to 2 billion, so it goes up by 4 times. But the holders get 10 times as many, meaning if you do the math on that, you've got 2.5 times the percentage of holding that you had before the swap. The team goes down 75%, so we go 4 times lower. And as many people know, our tokens are there and effectively vested, and we've decided as a show of faith, we relock them. That's how much we've got on the horizon coming through. And we will also want to show that we're not going anywhere. We're just getting started. Where anyone who's known us for any period of time, we've had as much challenges as anybody in this space, probably more.
One big thing I can really take away from RedFOX Labs, you as Glenn and Arklega, Sean, everyone from the team, trust is the #1 value over there. Because if you can't prove to everyone that you guys are trustworthy in what you do, it feels like you're doing it for nothing. It really.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really important is we've sort of changed phases. Like in the beginning, it's like you say, I'm going to do something, and people say, that's great, then do it. And then you say, I'm going to do it. And most of the companies in this space, I'll call them projects because the majority are not companies. Yes. The majority of the projects in the space say, I've got an idea, it's a white paper, and I'm going to try and do something. We don't try and do something, we do it, and we've got to find a way to make that happen. And the thing is, we've made no apologies about it. If something's in our way, we have to knock it over. We have to get there, we have to do it. So we've gone from the phase of saying we're going to do something, and a lot of people saying, well, it's taking too long and there's setbacks and where is it and all the rest of it, to saying, you know, we told you we're going to bring out COGS, we told you we're going to bring out the game. And then once people actually see it and they've got it in their hands, so to speak, and they can touch it and feel it, then comes the whole, you did it, and it worked, you know, as well as, if not better than you said it was going to work. So what's the next part? So now we've shown that we can deliver quality products. Now our obligation is to show that we've got that focus and the commitment to that momentum, and that we don't do what a lot of projects have done, just turn around and say, "Well, that's enough."
Yeah.
That was good enough. We could easily just say, "Well, we've gone out there, we've produced something. It's been relatively popular, and see you later. Thanks for being with us." But that's how I think about things from the customer's perspective always. And ultimately, I invested in a lot of different cryptos over the years and stocks. I want to know that that team's gonna ride this bus till the end. So that unlock period of 2 years kind of flew past, and phases started flying past, and we just turned around and said, you know what, as a sign of faith, we need to not only lock away, if we actually reduce while increasing the holder supply, what that does is it shows how confident that we're very confident that we will benefit greatly from that in time.
And on top of that, the hodlers, I'm gathering a lot from the community, are going to be there for that length of time as well. On COGS, because I must have either missed it or it's probably just a rumor that COGS holders, do they receive RFOX tokens too?
Yep, there's a drop. So what we had to do is we had to make sure that there was a small allocation of RFOX for tournaments and prizes, and what we wanted to do was make sure that there was an allocation on the wax side, so that if people are on the east side, let's just say gas fees are massive, or there's everybody's locked up their RFOX because they're getting good returns or something like that in one of the pools that they're in, we thought we need to make sure there's a supply there. We don't want to rely on funding or sponsors or something. We want to be able to do things ourselves. Obviously that's you're picking up on the fact that we just want to be self-sufficient. We don't want to rely on one blockchain or one VC or one partner. We have to know that we can do this ourselves without anybody else. So that's the only people we can rely on ultimately in the long term. So we turned around and said, if we're going to allocate this pool, what should we do for all of those people that supported our first product launch and it was a success, and these guys really got behind us and they're a great community. So we're about to release shortly a light paper with mechanics on how these people will get their airdrop. So they'll get an amount of RFOX divided between them based on certain collection mechanics. So people are speculating on whether that's to do with foils or non-foils or ultra rares or supersets or whatever, but we haven't actually explained what that will be. What we have explained is that it will be determined by third-party data, so that it is not us producing the data, because we want that transparency and trust to be there, meaning if someone keeps stat collections or point scores for collections that have been decided by them and not us, we'll say we're going to use their system or tool, and as a result of XYZ, you will receive this number of RFOX tokens. But the short answer is yes, there will be an airdrop. And I can't tell you what the market rate will be as this thing opens on Ethereum exchanges, but
let the market decide.
Yeah, it'll be it's a decent amount. But you know, I think that a majority of our community from COGS it's a bloody amazing community, and such a non-toxic, wonderful, supportive, participative community, and it's so different to a lot of.
I can speak from experience, mate.
Yeah,
they are.
RFOX has seen its fair share of challenges in its days, and our community is starting to really become an extremely positive, good place as well. We've sort of broken away from the issues of the past and we're becoming more self-sufficient. So that's really helping us. And I think that the best way to reward these people is to give them some RFOX so that they're part of this as well. And knowing most of our community, they're going to want to try and work out how they can put that into edition 2 of COGS and pump it back into the ecosystem. So yeah, we're just we're humbled by the amount of support that we've got. We were living in a little bit of a bubble, and we've sort of opened ourselves up to the different sectors and communities of the space, and it's been refreshing. Like so many positive people and so much positivity, and yeah, lots of welcoming people.
Good work really does bring along good rewards, if anything.
For sure.
Well, I think probably wrap it up there, Benny. Look, I guess the final message I'll probably leave on is saying that everyone watching this, go join the RFOX community on Telegram, Discord, follow Benny on Twitter and RedFOX Labs, as well as Cogs on Wax. I'll be buying more cogs and improving my
Thank you.
collection.
Thank
And
you.
mate, it's been a fantastic chat.
Yeah,
Really,
I've enjoyed it.